Let's focus on the problem. Focus on this man, what he's doing, that no president has ever done. No president. Occurred in Ukraine. I know what occurred in terms of China. I know what occurred in terms of Russia.
Well, the story really begins on June 28th when Devon Archer, business partner to Hunter Biden, is convicted in a New York court involving a bond scheme where they fraudulently sold $60 million worth of bonds connected to an Indian tribe. One of the bank accounts that was used in that fraud was a bank account that Hunter Biden drew a lot of money from and a lot of foreign entities put a lot of money into. So just to give you an idea, over a 14-month period from 2014 through early 2016, while Joe Biden is vice president of the United States, a Ukrainian company called Burisma, it's controlled by a very corrupt oligarch, sends $3 million into this account. A Chinese government entity called Bohai Harvest, which is run by the Bank of China, sends $650,000 into this account. Keep in mind, this is only one account. We believe there are others. There are other cash transfers as well, Steve. There's $1.2 million that comes from some LLC from a small boutique Swiss bank. We don't know who's behind the LLC. The bank itself has been charged in 6 countries for money laundering, so that makes it kind of sketchy. There's $142,000 going into this account from the son-in-law of the former prime minister of Kazakhstan. So large amounts of foreign money flowing in, and the #1 recipient of the cash coming out is the vice president's son, Hunter Biden. Joe Biden every year as vice president, he has to disclose his income, assuming those disclosures are honest. He can't have a big fat check from the Chinese government in that disclosure form. But his adult son, Hunter Biden, he doesn't have to disclose anything. So, you know, as I recount in the book, and we've talked about on your show, in December of 2013, Vice President Biden flies over on Air Force 2 to Beijing, China. On the plane with him is Hunter Biden. They have a lot of meetings. Vice President Biden doesn't really challenge the Chinese on much of anything. 10 days later, when they return, Bohai Harvest, this company we're talking about, agrees to a $1 billion private equity deal with Hunter Biden's firm. And that's just one example of the sort of thing we're talking about. Joe Biden is also point person on U.S. policy towards Ukraine, at the same time that his son is getting large checks from the Ukrainian government, and he's accused of looking the other way at fraudulent behavior and corruption within the government of Ukraine. While his son is getting paid, Vice President Biden makes 5 trips to Ukraine on very, very sensitive matters. I mean, we're all familiar with globalization and the phenomenon as it relates to the economy and corporations. Well, corruption is being globalized as well. You know, 70 years ago, foreign governments, were, a country like China or others were not quite as interested in every single thing that happens in Washington, D.C. Now what Washington, D.C. does can make you or break you, whether you're China, whether you're the Ukraine, you name it. So what do? They look for friends in Washington, and one of the best ways to make friends in Washington is to do deals with family members.
Key in terms of corruption. They made, I mean, I'll give you one concrete example. I was, not but it just happened to be that was the assignment I got. I got all the good ones. So I got Ukraine. And I remember going over convincing our team, or others, to convincing us that we should be providing for loan guarantees. And I went over for, I guess, the 12th, 13th time to Kyiv, and I was supposed to announce that there was another $1 billion loan guarantee. And I had gotten a commitment from Poroshenko and from Yatsenyuk that they would take action against the state prosecutor, and they didn't. So they said they were walking out to press conference. I said, no, we're not going to give you the $1 billion. They said, you have no authority. You're not the president. The president said. I said, call him. I said, I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion. I said, you're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here. And I think it was, 6 hours? I said, I'm leaving in 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Well, son of a bitch. Got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid.